worry, I'm not gonna use the microphone the whole time, you're just gonna have to wait and see what the microphone is for. How are you all doing? Think like a lawyer this morning? You're all thinking like lawyers now? How many of you wrote something today? How many people, okay, let's put it the other way. How many of you did not write anything? Not write anything. No text, no email. You didn't say good morning to anyone? Not a single word you wrote today. You did or you did not? You changed your mind. You did. Anybody not writing this morning? No writing whatsoever. So you've all been madly texting all the way through Professor Jupiter's lecture. And you've been writing all day, and now we're gonna talk about academic writing. Now, why would I be talking about academic writing? I'm a text law professor. Don't text law professors just care about something else, which is what? Money, which is numbers, not words. Let's be real, right? That's what tax lawyers care about, right? Who thinks that's what tax lawyers think about? Money. Yeah, we got one brave soul. Obviously, you know what tax law is? It's law. And what is law? Law is words. And what are words? Things that we are going to use to try to express our idea of the kind of society we're trying to build. We're going to try to do things after we use those words. It's kind of crazy if you really think about it. Like law is we're going to write some words down, and then people are going to change their behavior based on the words we wrote. Right? We're going to write them in a book, and then people will do things because we wrote the words. Oh, that's crazy if you think about it. And if you think about tax law that is numbers, I'm here to tell you, it's words telling you that if you do something, then something that happens to you. And so words got you to law school instead of, engineering, for example, or economics or science. Words got you to law school. Now it's time to start thinking about what am I using? What is the power of the way I put words together? How do I think about that strategically for a law school? So who wrote an essay last fall in school? You all wrote essays. And how'd you do? You did pretty well, I'm guessing. Since you're here, you did great. Probably saw an A on one of your transcripts for some writing that you've done. So you've had some success in writing. So I'm here to tell you that when you're writing, you have a style and a voice that you've been developing, and we are going to disrupt it in law school by kind of changing the way you think about the power of words. That is what we are going to do to you. We are going to manipulate your brains until you start thinking about words in a whole new way. And so I'm going to talk to you about academic writing. And all I'm trying to do here is tell you my little list of pet peeves. That's basically what this is. This is not about how to write well. This is about how not to write shitty. That's like so low bar. Just don't write shitty in law school. Okay, I know that's not a very professional word. How about don't write in a way that's weak or susceptible to being broken apart easily by the reader, or that makes the reader upset or angry or bored. That's the word. You know what is hard about law school? It's all the reading you have to do. And I'm going to tell you, when you start reading in law school, you are going to start looking for summaries. Because you're going to read the original source, and you're going to fall asleep, and the drool is going to come out of your mouth, and you're going to want something that's better written that helps you navigate this complex field. And I'm here to tell you, you are going to have to resist that. You have it, and you're checking for like pub docs, and you're trying to find a way that you are going to get through your classes with minimum reading. Because the reading that you're going to do is long and arduous and hard, and you're not going to understand it. And academic writing, in my mind, is trying to do the opposite of that. Try to be acceptable. Try to make it so the reader wants to know what you're writing on the page. Okay, that is the goal here. So this is me. I'm an author person talking about academic writing. So, and you can see here at the bottom, I have two handles for all Christians. On TikTok and Instagram. I used to be on Twitter until it was X. No thanks. I'm on LinkedIn, you can connect to me on there. You also see the tiny tax band. Some of you have already noticed it. Thank you so much. We do appreciate our small but mighty fan base. We take popular songs and rewrite them to be about tax and law school and some other things. And we drop 2 songs because we are funny like that. Okay, so in about 90 minutes or so, I think I have about 90 minutes. I'm going to cover some really basic rules for writing the papers in law school. Now, caveat. It's my basic rules. Is it Professor Jupiter's basic rules? No, she might hate everything I say. And so when you sit in a class, that's to check it. So when you're sitting in class, you have to, in a way, try to figure out what are your professor's basic rules. I am doing you a free. I wrote mine for you. Wrote my rules for you. So what my expectation is when you write a paper for me that you ignore what I wrote for you? No. I'm giving it to you, handing it to you in the expectation that this will make you a better writer so that I want to read the paper you write. I want to know what you got here. I don't want to do editing of your paper. I want to read the substance of your paper and not be frustrated with the style, the diction choices, the clumsiness, the passive voice, whatever. So it's my rules. It doesn't mean that my colleagues all share my idea of what is good writing. They might have a very different idea of what is good writing. Maybe they wrote it down in the syllabus. Maybe read it and see. Maybe they've written papers. You know this thing that law professors do when they're not talking to you? They are professors. So you can go read one of their papers and kind of get a sense of their voice and how they express things. And then you can kind of maybe get a hint about what they like to see in your writing. So I'm going to share with you my really basic rules. Mine. I have a paper on online. You can go read it. I gave this lecture last year. You know, no 2 lectures are the same, but they're basically the same, probably. Not too much changes in somebody's view of what is good writing over time. So you can go look at that. And this one will be up later on. Okay, I'm going to give you, you're not going to like this, but I'm going to give you a dozen words that I don't want to see in your writing. You can say them, you talk to me, and you can give them in a lecture, you can put them in a song, but I don't want them in your writing, and we'll talk about them next week. Then I'm going to skip that, and we're going to start right here. Okay, we're going to give you some really basic rules for writing good papers in law school. So I'm going to give you 3: structure, substance, and style. I want structure first. Don't give me an unstructured paper. I don't want to wade through your stream of consciousness that you put together this morning to read that. I want something structured. I'm going to give you substance, and I'm going to give you. Let's start with the structure. It's the most important place to start, and I want you to think about that last paper you wrote. That last paper you wrote before you came to law school. What was the structure of that paper? Do you have a sense of like, what was the beginning and what was the middle and how did it end? Did you write that ending at 2 in the morning, desperate to finish it, and who cares what's there? Did you think about how the reader was perceiving the manner in which you put the words together, as opposed to the words themselves? Is this something that you did? Maybe you did. And so when I do this structure, you'll be able to compare yours to mine. And if you didn't, you need to start thinking about structure. Structure comes first. Everything flows from structure. Have you ever had that feeling where you started writing a paper and you're madly researching and writing, and then you like, hey, I feel like I said this before 23 pages ago. And sure enough, you will go back and you did say it before 23 pages ago. Structure is going to solve that problem for you. Have you ever written a paper and lost yourself in it, like desperately wishing it was over? Like, I thought it was a good idea, it seemed great. Then I started working on it, and then it got hard, and then I got lost, and then I went on too many tangents, and now I'm mired in the pit of this paper, and I cannot get out. I am lost. I don't even know what the paper's about, and it's due. Have you ever had that feeling? Yeah, structure is going to get you out of that track right from the get-go. Because once you have structure, you know exactly where to put your focus and where to put your energies. So what is structure? Here it is. It's a roadmap. Okay, I'm about to use a metaphor. And we're gonna talk about metaphors a little later, but this is a presentation, not a paper. So I'm gonna use the metaphor of the roadmap, and I want one. I want you to give me a roadmap at the beginning of your paper. You're gonna organize your argument. Okay, you gotta figure out what in law school, that's why you're here. What many of you wrote on your personal statements, I want to go to law school because when I was a kid, all my friends and my family said I should go to law school because I love arguing so much. Well, now's the chance. Figure out what you're arguing. Figuring out what you're arguing is actually pretty hard. It's hard. You can't always figure it out until you've done tons of research and tons of writing, written stream of consciousness, 50 pages, and then you figure out what your argument is. You got to figure out what that argument is because everything is going to flow from that in a legal paper. You're going to develop a clear introduction. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. An introduction is key. Now, some people will say, write your paper and write the introduction last. Have you ever heard that advice? Wrong. Whoever told you that, I want you to go back to them and say, why did you curse me with a lack of structure in my writing? The introduction is where you work it out. That introduction is short. It has a roadmap and it's going to set up the whole paper and the whole paper is going to flow from it. And you're going to rewrite that introduction 100 times as you develop the paper. Please don't leave the introduction to last. It's the most important part of the paper. I'm begging. You're going to avoid tangents. Well, law students, I have news for you. We love you. We professors love you, law students, because you bring that, bright-eyed, detailed energy to our classroom, and you do this. Oh, but what if? You're going to start to hate this when your fellow classmates do it. Oh, but what if? What if this? What if that? What if this? You're so good at coming up with alternate scenarios and then moving the conversation into that alternate scenario. And then everybody goes to that other alternate scenario and everybody was kind of like, where were we now? What happened? And then your professor's like, rewind. Okay, this is where we were. You don't want to do that in writing. You want to keep the reader going down the track that you sent them on. You don't want them going all over the place with you on some journey of, inner exploration. Avoiding tangents is the way to go. This one's hard. You're going to make every sentence count. What do I mean by that? Well, one of the things I write on every student paper is, you said this already. You said this already. You said this already. You said this already. Structure will help you avoid repetition, but making every sentence count means, did I write a sentence? It was an unlovely sentence. I didn't like my sentence. Did I then rewrite it a second time, but leave the first one there? Don't do that, because that's not making every sentence count. That's repeating yourself until maybe someday I find one that I like. One of the things I notice in student writing, I'm sure you'll feel this. Once you have written something down, it's like the pain of deletion is so intense. What if this is the one sentence in the entire paper that the professor says, genius? What if this is the one? And so you become paralyzed in your own writing, what you put on the word page. You don't want to delete it in case it's the one. I'm here to tell you, it's not the one. It's not the one. I promise. There's not one. There's not one. It's the whole together that is going to impress your professor. And then the number one rule of writing, and you will see this, you got to get something down. You got to get the words on there so you can edit. The whole exercise of editing is really the writing. The first part is just getting all the words into the doc. Editing is where you bring that story to life. If you do not give yourself time to edit, if you're like, okay, paper due tomorrow, let me start writing, and you do not give your time and your brain space to think about what you've written so that you can edit, I promise you, you will not succeed. You will not have good writing. You cannot. No one, is there an exception? No one can write a perfect paragraph the first time. That's not true. There's probably people who are like, compose the entire beautiful poem in their heads and wait and then they sit down and beautifully it just comes out. No. I mean, there's a reason that artists often, expire penniless and frustrated and they hate themselves. Why? Because the act of creation is so hard to get what's here out in the world. It's hard for all of us. It's like it's perfect in your head, and then you put it on the page and it's no longer perfect. Why? Why? I don't know. But editing will get you closer to that, what that idea is in your brain that you're trying to get out. If you do not give yourself time to edit, you will never, ever get to the best place you could with that writing. It's just a fact. So you have to give yourself time. So there's a management function here. You have to give yourself time to put the paper down, put it away, do something else, and then come back and edit. And I will tell you, when I read student papers, I know, you think I don't know, but I know when you haven't edited a sentence, because I will show that sentence to students later. I'll be like, read the paper, and I'll write, you reread your own sentence, and if you think you know what this sentence is, you send me an email and tell me what it says. Because I don't know what it says, and I don't think you know what it says either. And I get emails all the time from students like, fair enough. I don't know, it seemed like it made sense at the time. Listen, same for me. Same for me. I will write these sentences in my articles. I'll be like, this is the most beautiful sentence I've ever written. I've edited it perfectly. I am amazing. I am amazing. Look at me writing amazing. And then later I'll be like, what was I even thinking? That totally made sense at the time. It makes no sense now. It's convoluted. There's too many big words. I don't even know what the caveat was supposed to be in here. I obviously had some idea, and then I thought there's a counter idea. I want to indicate my recognition of the counter idea. I did, you start getting in your brain, and then that sentence is no longer lovely. So, what seems great at the time, you only know for sure after you edit. Okay, so organizing your argument, I'm going to give you 3 parts. It's 5. Okay, I want you to understand the rule of 3. So, you have this idea, you know about the rule of 3s. Have you heard this before? Yeah, okay. So you can remember a list of 3 things. You just can. Humans, we're good at this. Basically, once the list is over 3, we start to either lose interest or we just start to forget what's in the mushy middle. So same with your paper. I don't think that there are very many situations where you need more than 3 parts. And then adding the introduction and conclusion gives you 5. Okay? So 3 parts in the paper, introduction and conclusion. So I am telling you, not that this is a straitjacket and you must always write your papers in this way, but I am telling you that if you don't know how to structure your argument, this is the way. This is the way. Start with the introduction. We're going to talk about the introduction a little bit more. You are going to give me, part 2 is going to be background and context setting always. What am I talking about? Situate the reader. Let them know where we are. What field are we in? What are we talking about? What's the basic topic? If you don't situate the reader, you just jump right into your argument. The reader's like, huh? You have to give them the context. You have to let the reader know what problem it is that we're thinking about. Part 3, you're going to explore this problem to be solved or the issue to be analyzed. Now, in law school, you don't always have to have a thesis. Do you know what a thesis is? Who knows what a thesis is? Who can tell me what a thesis is in 1 sentence? Yeah. That's not a sentence. So first of all, a sentence includes a verb, an object, a subject. And you gave me 2 words, your argument. So you want to try one more time? It is. That will be demonstrating. Good. Okay. Good. So it's capable of being proven, right? One way or the other. Like you're gonna at the end, you're gonna say this is, and it's either it's true or not true, right? That's what I want to show, and then moving forward, you demonstrate. This is the one. Beautiful paper proof. Yes. Good. So not every law school paper has to have this. Sometimes you're writing a paper which is explaining a complex legal area. It's not that you have some argument. It's more that you're explaining or showing or putting together various pieces of information to draw a picture of a topic area. So you don't always have to have a thesis. So you could say a problem to be solved, which is an argument. You're going to make it plain and defend it. or you could just have an issue that you're going to analyze. So don't always feel like you have to have a thesis and have some brilliant, contribution to the literature. This is not always your job in law school. Sometimes your job is to find issue area and explore it thoroughly and methodically. It's not necessarily with a thesis. So that's part 3. And then part 4 is possible solutions or proposed way of analyzing an old problem in a new way. Listen, McGill Law, famous for our system. You all wrote it, I hope, in your personal statement. You all recognize our trans-systemic program. The idea here is that because you are learning civil law, common law traditions, and indigenous legal traditions, and thinking about comparative legal approaches all the time, you always have a way to analyze a whole problem in a new way. Because you're working often in fields where no one has done that, except maybe one of your professors at McGill Law. So this is often a nice starting point. If you're not sure where to go, you start from that place. Like what's original? It's original to look at this problem from pluralistic legal perspective. It's a way, okay? And then your last part is the conclusion. So 3 parts: background, context, tell me where we are, tell me what problem we're going to be solving or issue we're going to be analyzing, and then give me the possible solutions or proposed way of analyzing those things in a new way. Okay, I want to talk about your introduction. I want you to write the introduction first. I already said, I want you to use the introduction in your roadmap to constantly consult it to see if you did the thing you said you were going to do. So in the introduction, you're going to say, in this paper, I will, or my preferred is, this paper will. This paper will explore blah. It will do so in the following way. It will go through this, that, and the other. This, that, and the other better be parts 2, 3, and 4 of the paper, right? Or they're in part 2, or they're in some way, it's following, the paper's following your structure that you lay out in the intro. And what I do, little pro tip, I write the introduction, then I copy each of the sentences in the introduction into each of the respective sections of the paper. Part 1 will do X, I then copy that and put it at the top of part 1 in my document. Part 2 will do Y, I then copy that and put it in part 2 of the paper. Part 3 will do Z, I copy that and put it in. And then when I go write that part of the paper, that thing that this part is supposed to do is sitting right there accusing me. You said you were going to do this. Did you? And then if you don't, and you change what you said in that part, then you go back up to the introduction because you got to rewrite what you said because you did something different. You see how that goes? So you constantly are coming back to your introduction, rewriting it, depending on where the writing process and the research and the thinking and the analysis takes you. Because when you start writing a paper, you're on a journey of exploration, you don't know where you're going. You're just guessing. And so when you get there and you see it's a little different than what you expected, naturally you're going to revise what you say you're doing there, and then you got to go back to the beginning and tell the reader, hey, instead of what I said it was going to do X, now it's going to do W. So long as it all makes sense together, the introduction is going to match the rest of your paper. And I feel happy because I see your journey at the end of it instead of as you're going through it, which is what happens when you don't edit your paper. I see your journey as you go through it. I'm here, I'm there, I'm all over the place. So I want you to rewrite it, rewrite it, rewrite it, rewrite it. And I want you to write the conclusion last. Now, I am the least fussy person about conclusions, so I'm going to admit a little bias here. Others may have a different view of this. My view is the conclusion is like, this paper I said I would do X, Y, and Z. I did X, Y, and Z. Goodbye and have a nice day. You know, I'm good with it. Some people want something else in the conclusion, like the literature is vast and there are unanswered questions in the universe, and not all of them have been answered in this paper, but I have led the way for the people to know exactly, you know, blah, blah, blah. Fine, whatever. If you want to do that, I don't know. It's not, I'm not upset. I just prefer, I like the conclusions. Like I said, I was going to do this thing. Remember when I told you up there, the intro, and then I did it, and maybe you might skip on it, but I'm going to hear at the end to remind you, I did it. And I do want you actually to physically pat yourself on the back when you do it. I want you to get in the habit of doing that. because you are the only one that knows the struggle that you went through to get to that conclusion. And no one's going to appreciate that paper as much as you. So you may as well. Right? Why not? I'll do it. If you come to my office and you say, I wrote this paper, I'll be like, pat yourself on the back. Maybe. It's a good paper. Okay, I want you to avoid tangents. This is a tough one. This is where we start with that thesis. You're going to state a clear point up front, whether it's a thesis or not, state the clear point, and develop it through the paper. The entire point of legal writing is to support a position. Support a position. So you have to state the position, and then you have to think about what do I need to support that position, and then you need to organize those arguments in a logical way that support that position and stick to them. You can't be like, I was developing this argument, and then I thought of something else that I'm pretty sure how it fits, but it seems like it might be a good idea. Maybe let's throw it in here somewhere. I don't know how it connects to anything else. But the professor is smart, and the professor will figure out how this all fits together. No, I won't. I will not figure out how it all fits together. Guess what I will do? Give up. You don't want me to give up? Do you want me to give up? You don't want me to give up. Not like standing in a line for donuts. Rational to give up. Rational to give up if the line is too long and the class is starting. That's rational. But it's, you do not want me to give up on your paper because I can't make my way through it. You don't want to do that to me. Don't defeat me. Don't deprive me of your ideas with a poorly written paper, please. You want to keep me on track. I can't do the analysis for you. And if you dump a bunch of information on me and say, well, you're smart, you figure out how this all solves the problem of the universe, I'm going to say, no, thanks, I got my own stuff to do. Would you like to do a little foreign affiliate dumping exercise for me? No? Then don't give me a paper I can't. So this is the thing that I think is the takeaway here. It is hard. This is hard. This is the one you will struggle with the whole time you're here. All the ideas are interesting. Lots of ideas are important. Many are extremely important ideas. But are they relevant to this paper? That is the question you have to answer for yourself. And it's hard. It's hard. Especially because you're new to the topic. When you start researching something, it's the ocean. It's a fire hose of information. You don't know what's important and what's not, and you can quickly get overwhelmed by the information, right? So the figuring out what is important to this argument, this position you're taking, that is a task. That is hard work. And if you don't do it in the paper and you leave those unimportant side notes, asides, attempts, you leave all that stuff in the paper and you hope I find the important one, I won't. I won't find it. You have to find it and you have to show me this is important, not by saying it's important. Don't tell me it's important. You develop that idea to show its importance in the paper. So you've got to figure this out. Many ideas are important, but they're not all relevant. You've got to figure out which one is relevant to this paper that you're writing. And very often I see this, like, you write this paper. Okay, you guys know the dark night of the soul. When you're writing a paper, you're at that point where you're like, it was a good idea. I was excited. I was going to write this paper. And all the time I was fired up to write the paper. And then I started to work. It started to get a little heavier. The paper started feeling more like, like a burden that I accidentally put on my back and now I have to carry it around. And then you get to the point where you're like, oh, why did I make this horrible job? Why did I do this myself? And then you kind of come to the end and you're like, okay, it's not as good as I thought, but it's not as bad. I'm almost done, let me just get it out. And it's that moment of self-doubt at the end of that process where you think, I thought I had this great idea. I took myself from thinking this great idea was a terrible idea. And I've only salvaged to this point to think it's a worth writing about idea again. And so you use that self-doubt to then say, sort of spring a bunch of new ideas at the end and the conclusion. Like, rest assured, reader, I had all kinds of bright ideas. Here's the part. You gotta resist this urge. Because the conclusion is going to close the chapter here. not leave it open for anything to happen next, I'm gonna feel much more confident in you if you close your paper on the topic that you started. And not open me up to an entire world. Again, it's idiosyncratic. This is my personal, maybe you don't like this. Maybe other professors are not like this. So you have to check, right? But this is my personal view. So I want you to feel confident in what you did. And I want to tell you that the journey starts with, oh my God, best idea ever. This is gonna be an awesome paper that goes through, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? This is the worst thing I've ever decided to do. I hate this paper. I'm so upset with myself. And then the redemption to, well, okay, it's done. This natural journey, this is learning. That's why you're writing. You write to learn. You write to learn. And you write because you want the other person who you're going to give the paper to learn from what you learn. So of course, naturally, everything seems like it's going to solve the world's problems if you don't think about it too much. And then as soon as you think about it, of course it doesn't solve every problem. What it does is it shows you all the ways it doesn't solve the problem. Of course, that is frustrating, naturally, because you thought you had the world-changing idea, and then when you looked at it, you realized it doesn't. Maybe it changes just one thing, or maybe it potentially changes one thing or nothing. Should I still say it? Yeah. Yeah, because if you don't say it, who's going to say it? Am I just? You did the work that you did to get to where you are. So you got to commit to what you learned from that. That's what you're going to do. And don't use the conclusion just for your big ideas. All right, I said make every sentence count. What I mean is this. You're going to have word count. You all are familiar with word counts? Being students is part of your life. 800 words, 2,000 words, 3,000 words. How long was the last paper you wrote? You know? Give me a number. How many?
30 pages.
30 pages. That's not a word count. Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike. The answer is non-responsive. How are we doing? I'm not a litigator. Can you tell? Did I see you like a litigator there for just a second? Sorry, go ahead.
Roughly 10 to 15,000 words.
That's a lot of words. 10 to 15,000. Anybody write something a little small? Oh, yeah. I wrote 15,000. Okay, yeah. Harder. Oh, that 500 pages. Pages. Can you find out be my RA? Just kidding. So you're gonna have word count, and I'm telling you, the smaller the word count, the harder the paper. And I don't want you to waste that real estate. You gotta think like it's a New York apartment. You gotta get everything in there. You can't duplicate. You can't have 3 bottles of ketchup. You can have 1 and it's small. You know what I'm saying? You got to think about that when you have a word count that's, you got a guy living in a tiny, maybe you do live in a tiny apartment. I live in a tiny apartment. I know where everything is. I swear there's no losing of extra cartons of, milk in my apartment. It's too small for that. That is how you have to think about a tight word count paper. Like everything has to fit. So you do not want duplicates. Okay, don't spend precious word count on things that don't need to be there. So remember I said all ideas might be interesting, but they're not all relevant. This is the extensive background in the track. You start writing a paper, you think, well, I gotta tell the reader everything. Like first there was no universe, and then there was a big bang, then there was light and darkness and oceans form. No, like we don't have to start at the beginning each time. You gotta start somewhere though. Like what can you assume your reader knows? This is a hard question for you, especially in law school. Like your law professors know everything. We're brilliant. There's nothing we don't know. There's no way for you to start a paper where we won't know what exactly what you're talking about. No, you actually do have to figure that out. How to start with background, but not go overboard. It's a judgment call. Don't spend precious word count in repetition. Look for clues in your own text. I'm going to get in trouble here because you all have written these. Are you ready? You have written, that is to say. Who has written that in a paper? That is to say, that is to say. That is to say means I wrote a sentence I didn't like or wasn't very clear. And now I'm going to say it again. This time I'm going to say it nicer. But I'm going to leave them both here. No. That is to say, for me, is a clue that you're about to go into repetition. And I only want it once. 1 bottle of ketchup, not 3. Can you tell I live in a house where there's multiple bottles of ketchup? It's really crazy, I have to tell you. In other words, who's using this? Who's using in other words? Oh yeah, you make the big complicated sense with all the big words. It doesn't make any sense. So then you write another one that maybe has like a cute little metaphor. In other words, it's like putting the cart before the horse. More on that in a moment. In other words, to me is another signal. Like you're, instead of editing, you're rewriting, saying again. And repetition is a killer, especially in impression word. And my absolutely favorite, as explained above. Well, why are we here? If you, as explained above, is there a structural problem in your argument? Like if you are restating the exact same argument again, and you're about to explain it again, if you say as explained above and let me do it again, something's gone wrong. We're off the track. We need to get back on track. Maybe we need to revisit our introduction, figure out where our roadmap was supposed to be taking us, and figure out if we've got some analysis in the wrong place. Okay, editing again. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. I know I stress everything. Important. It is. I am living in a small apartment right now. I'm cramming everything into this lecture, so it's all important. Write it all down. If you do not care about your writing, if you actually get yourself to a place where you say, I don't care about this paper, I am done with it. Send. Guess what I'm gonna feel about your paper? Guess what you think? I'm gonna be like, I'm excited to get the paper from the student who doesn't care what's in the paper. No, I'm not excited about it. But I want you to engage in a voyage of self-discovery when you have that moment. Why don't you care about the paper? Is it just like it's time pressure? That happens. Is it, you know, just like too many things happen, you're committed to too many things. Like it happens, I understand, and we're all humans and we're all gonna get overwhelmed here, so that can happen. But is there a deeper feeling that the paper didn't do what we wanted it to do? If that's the reason you don't care about the paper, then you're not done with that paper. There's something missing, and I want you to find it if possible. And then I just give you a little visual tax away. How many titles do I have? How many? How many titles? Huh? 0 titles.
I know, in your thing,
In your essay, I want 0. How many do I have? How many titles? Sorry? You see 1. 2. How many think it's 1? How many think it's 4? What's the first one? Where's 4? Now you're getting worried, aren't you? Huh? You think it's 4? I really love what's happening right now. Okay, I want you to see the face. Okay, this is going to happen in your class. Your professor knows the answer. They ask the class the answer. You don't want to be wrong. It's worse. Class. It's horrible. Who wants to feel this? Let me tell you, you're in my class, you're gonna be wrong all the time. You're gonna learn a lot. Learn to love to be wrong. Being wrong is how you learn. That's how you learn. This thing is gonna have in class, okay? When I said 1, a few people were 1, everybody's looking around. I said 2, what about 2? Awesome, 2s, everybody's looking around. 3, lots of 3s, and then 4, and what did I do when he said 4? What was my reaction when I heard 4? Did I give you a signal? What was my signal? Well, I think it's more than surprise. Do I agree that there's 4? Who here thinks I think that 4 is the right answer? John, come on, that's my RA, you should know better. Not yet. No, I was like, 4. So either I'm being dramatic, which is possible, Jonah, don't give it away. Or I'm signaling that, no, you're wrong. And as soon as I said it, you were like, let me double check. And that face that you made, that face, the uncertain face, watch it, it's so fun. It's so fun because this is like, now you're on, you put yourself in the hot seat. Like, ooh, who's gonna be right here? Is it gonna be me or not? It's very, okay, what's the first mistake? I'll say here with a question mark. If you see me asking a question mark, it's not a question. Next problem. Okay, good. It's the number, and you know, there, and there. Oh, brutal, gotta get it right. Third one. I guess it is unacceptable to have too many B's and unacceptable. Where's fourth one, my friend? Nice job. Excellent. Started spelling error, but it is a lack of punctuation, and you win. You actually. You're the first one ever. How long have I been giving this lecture? The first one to see the lack of the period. I don't even have it on the slide. Nice job. That attention to detail, a tax lawyer, maybe see me after. Alright. So that. I like the semicolon. That's a design choice. That is a style choice. It's a judgment call. You don't like me? You want to argue with me about semicolon? Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Also, comes to me under box. Yeah, good, very good. I don't know, it's just style. Sometimes I break the rules. Once in a while, huh? But not when it comes to tax avoidance, never. Okay, you'll get that next year. All right, so okay, I want you to spend some time to delete some kind of words in your writing, and here they come. I want you to get rid of weak words. I will give you some of these weak words. We're going to give you 12 words I want out of your writing, your legal writing, your formal academic legal writing. I will give you some of those weak words. Here's the one, test the one, and I have to give you a caveat. So when writing in English, the passive voice is, do you know the passive voice? Like things happen, right? Mistakes. Sorry? Were made. Very good. Mistakes were made. Right? Okay, I'm going to tell you, you will hear it if you hang out with me. Many of you have chosen already, but like 30 seconds into this that you're not hanging out with me, which is fine. It is a vibe. When I see a passive structure, I will always insert two words. By zebras? Question mark. So anytime I see a sentence where I could put the words by zebras, I know I'm reading a passive sentence. So mistakes were made by zebras. So this is a little, I just want you to check. When you write, could you have zebras being the actors? If you could, then you are distancing the reader with passive language. Now my caveat or my hesitation on this is that I encounter the passive language with alarming frequency in French. The French is often written in the passive way, and this is correct. Like it is how it's done. And I'm an Anglophone. I get it. Like this is not my first language, and I am not here to criticize the way you write in French. So I would not probably point this. I might point it out if I was really struggling to figure out who was doing what to whom. But when you're writing in English, this is my number one, frustration is that when you tell me things happened, I don't know who did this terrible thing that you said happened. Why don't you name them and say they did it? Like it's just frustrating. I don't know what's happening. And you know what's happening when the reader is frustrated? You've had this happen to you. You ever have this sensation where you're reading something, but you don't read a single word? It's because your brain is still trying to figure out something that happened before. And you don't do this consciously. But what's happening when you use a passive voice is now my brain is translating the passive to try to figure out what's happening, situating it, but I'm still reading because I don't stop myself. I just naturally, subconsciously, I'm still trying to figure out that passive voice, but then I'm reading. I will just miss the next couple of paragraphs or pages or the rest of the paper as I try to figure out what that was. And I get stuck on. Like I just get stuck on. So unstick me. Turn it into an active language. Instead of mistakes were made, Professor Christians made a mistake. Say who made the mistake or what is the mistake. Also, I will tell you, there's a tone issue because sometimes when you do that, when you take it out of passive and put it into active, you will find what you're saying is actually pretty aggressive. Like if you're gonna write in print that the Supreme Court justice made a mistake, then you can be sure you did. If you think, oh, the Supreme Court, mistakes were made in this case, really? By zebras? Oh, you're talking about people who wrote that who have a lifetime of writing words on page. You better be sure if you're accusing them of being wrong, that you're not wrong. It's hard, you know? So sometimes you will use the passive voice to avoid this. Don't use the passive voice in this manner. Try to get rid of it. Repetitive, I'm not gonna repeat. Lawyerly sounding, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, right in your first week before law school starts, if you try to sound lawyerly, like the foregoing herewith said problem, you know, blah, blah. I've lost interest. I don't care. Let me tell you something. The smarter you are, the less likely you are going to use words that people don't understand. That's it. Period. End of sentence. That's it. You want to sound smart, use simple words. A student last year wrote on a post-it, put it on my door, Professor Richards likes words with one sound in them. It is true. I do like words with one sound in them. I just gave you a whole sentence full. I do like words with one sound in them. Did you understand what I said? Will you remember it? Yes. If I say, I prefer not to have polysyllabic nomenclature in your written literature poems because you're not going to remember I said that, but you're going to remember that I like words with one sound in them, aren't you? So did I just tell you inadvertently that I'm smart? I am, but you are too, and you can make people understand and follow you with a more simple language. I'm going to tell you a secret. If you don't understand what you're talking about, the words are long and cumbersome and full of jargon. And if you do understand what you're talking about, they are short and sweet and to the point. Right? So lawyerly sounding words, I know you want to use them. You can wait, some of you. Since you were too using lawyerly sounding words, and I just told you not to use them in your academic writing, in the hallway and in your classroom to intimidate you here. And don't use blah words. I'm going to come to that in a minute. Here they come. Substance. Okay, we're going to move from structure to substance. I want you to substantiate everything, and I'm going to tell you that you need to represent others' claims accurately, and I'm going to give you some ideas about this. Okay, what is law's methodology? Now, those of you who have a science background know what methodology is. Do you know what the methodology of law is? I know you spent some time this morning talking about things like law, but do you know really what is law's methodology? Do you know what it is that law does? How do we do law? Any idea? Okay, I'm going to give you the secret of the universe. Here comes it. I'm unlocking it for you. It's amazing. You can stop law school after this because you're going to know. It is to make persuasive claims with appropriate support using accepted forms of evidence. It is to make, I know there's more than one sound in the word persuasive. I don't know how to make it short. Make persuasive claims. Persuasive. You convince me. Persuasive. With appropriate support. Appropriate support. What is that going to be like? We're going to have to think about that. And with accepted forms of evidence, you can interrogate that. Now, I'm going to ask you this. When I started, I said, why are you here? We're lawyers, words, right? I said, look at the power, awesome power of words. Think about what we're doing with words all the time as lawyers. We're making claims and we're trying to persuade people to agree with our view. And you are going to do this in all your classes, in every class. You're going to be hearing and making and listening to persuasive claims. Sorry, you are going to be hearing and making and listening to claims. And you are going to be constantly, you're judging judges, you are. You'll be listening to your classmates judging their claims. You'd be like, right? That's not a very good argument. Because, and then you will offer a counterclaim. And in the development of those claims, you are doing law's methodology. That is what you will do. Honing your claims until they become persuasive. Making a bold-faced claim that has no support. And then having people say, well, that's not a very good argument because, and then they pick at it and they drive you crazy. They drive you nuts picking away at your argument. You're like, it was sounding like a good argument when I had it in my head. Now it's out in the open and everybody's picking on it. I don't like it so much anymore. I feel unhappy about where I am now. Don't feel unhappy about where you are. What you have done is learn that your claim wasn't persuasive. And next time, your claim will be more persuasive. And the next time, it will be more persuasive. And so you're arguing for the Supreme Court, or you are the judge, and you're the one deciding if the lawyer's argument is persuasive or not. Because it's all words. It's all words. They mean what we say they mean. And what we can convince other people to believe they mean. That's what we're here for. So this is our methodology, which means we've got to deal with appropriate support. And we need to figure out what accepted forms of evidence are. So I'm going to give you a tip. Going into your classes, you are going to want to read the summary. You are going to want to read the head note of the case and stop there. You don't even know what that is perhaps yet, but you will learn. Some of you have read some cases. I'm quite aware. You've read some cases, and some of you know what a head note is, and some of you know that that head note is not written by the court. That's not the law. The law is the judgment. The head note is the summary. And I'm here to tell you, don't read the summary. That's like reading the Cliff Notes. You know what I mean? Cliff Notes instead of the original volume. Don't do this to yourself. You're only depriving yourself of the one thing you are building here, which is the ability to analyze an argument. Don't let somebody else tell you what the argument is. You do that. If I told you don't read the law, let me just tell you what it said, you'd be like, hey, I believe you. You seem like you know what the law says, but you should be skeptical. You'd be like, no, I'm going to read the law. I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to parse it because I want the law. I don't want to know what somebody else says about it before I've read it. I need to read it first. So I want you to consider that you have to know primary sources and consult it first. Go to the secondary source. You want to check to see what other people say about that primary source. But you never start with the secondary source. Never. Now, some of my colleagues will probably tell you the opposite of this. I don't know. I'm not in all their classes, so I don't know. But if you come to me and you tell me what a commentator said about the law, I will say, well, what does the law say? Did you read the law? You better read the law. Lawyers. Yeah. Did. Why would you read somebody's sentences in here? It's right here. It says, I've read small, that's all. I hate the index for some reason. Right? So primary sources, read them. Read them. And only read the secondary sources when you're checking your understanding or trying to compare how people think that those words fit together or what they mean. Okay? Do not make naked empirical claims. Okay, naked empirical claim, well, there's sort of a, if you put this in your paper, then I want you to have polled most of the population of the earth. So you need to have asked, how many billions are on the earth now? 8. So I need you to have asked what? What is most? 2/3?
4 billion and one.
Okay, you see the problem that we're having? If you say most people, I'm thinking how many people is most people? 4.1 billion people think? Probably not, and you don't know. So don't say most people think. That is a naked empirical claim. You're making a claim about the universe that you can't possibly prove. And that is not, in my book, an accepted form of evidence. That is just you postulating and you read 2 things and you're hoping everybody else thinks the same thing. Don't be lazy. Many scholars say is another. Same thing most people think. How many is many? How many is many?
More than one.
More than one, but it's more than 2 because a couple, right? I would say 3. If you say many, your footnote better have 3. 3 different people, not the same person who wrote it 3 times and cited themselves. No. 3 different people saying the exact same, then I will accept many scholars say. Oh, let's just say who they are. So-and-so scholar says, oh, why not? Why being shy or coy about who said it? Just say who said it. It's more direct anyway. And it's empirical. You're saying what the person said. And this is the worst in most cases. Again, with the most, what, 2/3 of the time? I don't know. What the case? I don't know. You know, it's just too much. I can't verify this claim. And you'll sit in class and people will say, well, everybody knows. If you're anybody saying everybody knows, send them to my office and you can give them this lecture. Not everybody knows, not everybody knows. Let me tell you, a lot of stuff happens because people think everybody knows. They don't all know. Everybody knows. And if you do, everybody knows, you know something new because you have more experience than everybody. And maybe you have something to say. So you don't accept what everybody knows. That's just a cognitive mistake that you're making. Because you have to bring what you're thinking to that. And if you don't think what everybody else thinks, guess what? You got a conclusion to your paper. That's great. Okay. Number 2, represent other claims accurately. I want you to read carefully. This is a bit of skill. Do you know that this is what you signed up for in law school? Reading carefully? Who's good at this? I bet you're good at it. Yeah, I think you're probably good at it. Who's good at reading carefully? Who thinks they're not good at reading carefully? Don't admit that. Don't admit that. Is it because it gets boring and the author did not engage you? Yes. So you see that's the problem with writing. You're going to read carefully. You're going to learn how to read carefully because if you don't, your claim's not going to be persuasive, and then someone's going to demolish your argument before you get out of the case, and then you're going to be unhappy and sad because you don't want to be wrong. So you are going to learn to read carefully, and you are going to restate arguments even more carefully. You probably know the straw man fallacy. Are you aware of the logical fallacies? The straw man fallacy, I don't know my man. Guess dated, a bit of a dated, the straw person fallacy. You misrepresented someone's argument to make it easier to attack. Classic first-year law school error. Classic. Let me just simplify the argument until it's not actually the argument that was made, but it's way easier for me to show why this argument is bad. And if I have to take into account all the subtle nuances of the argument that is, I won't be able to attack it. So let me just flatten and smash and break and all that until, yeah. And then what are we having? We're having an argument with, you know, something fictional. What's the point? What is the point of having an argument with something that nobody made? Nobody's sure. So if you represent the argument accurately and then you honestly try to take it, demolish it with the rigor that it deserves, your claim is going to be much more persuasive. Okay, style. Finally, you can style. I just have one thing to say: some clarity of expression, some modes of expression, and some appearance points. I do have okay, you could probably see from my PowerPoint that I like how things work. Right? This is not your standard you know, words on a page. PowerPoint, obviously, like, you know, some color and like some, you know, a little flair. Right? A little, maybe ever. You know, but the style is important because style conveys that you took the time to make sure the substance was right. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that when I get a paper that has 3 or 4 different fonts, things are randomly underlined in bold or italics, you know, the size changes, the margins change, or things are crowded, or it's hard to, I don't like, I'm unhappy. Do you want me to be unhappy when I read your paper? Do you want me to be unhappy when I read your paper?
Oh, no.
So don't do this. You guys think about this. So I'm going to give you some clarity of expression. Remember before I talked about words and weak words. It is evident that, you know, it goes without saying that. Do you use these? It is clear that. Do you use these words? Have you used these in your writing? It is apparent that. It is important to note that. I would be remiss if I did not mention, and one of my favorites is actually taken from a student paper. Well, it's from a mathematician school thought has it that. Okay, all of this is what I call throat theory. I would like to say something. It is clear that. If it is, can you say the sentence without saying it is clear that? Guess what? You can. And you'll get a prize from me if you don't put it is clear that in there. And the prize will be, I will cross it out with red pen on your paper. It is clear that, it is evident that. If it is, you don't have to say it. Okay, and the more you do this throat clearing, the more I think you're not sure about the argument you're asking. The more you say it is evident that, it is clear that, or whatever, it's obvious, it is important to note, the less likely I think the thing that follows that is in fact important, clear, apparent or evident or going without saying. Why, if it's going without saying, why are you saying? I never understood this. It goes without saying. Well, then, right? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? The answer to that is no. I just. I ask you if I'm wrong. You say no, and then we test, then we find out. It's just blah. It's blah, 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 blah. Don't fill your paper with blah, blah, blah. You've got precious word count. Don't use it in blah, 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 blah. Take those out. Take those out. Give yourself the room back to give me something beautiful. Something important that is important, and I will know because I will read it and I will see an argument emerge. Modes of expression. Okay. I have this personal pet peeve about the overused cliche metaphor. You are not going to get away with a metaphor in a paper with me. You are not. And I have a reason for this. Metaphors, although we use them in life all the time, and I've probably used 100 of them in the course of the last whatever hour. Metaphors are important, they're useful when we're having a discussion. But when you write that metaphor on the page, it is doing something. It is assuming the reader understands the metaphor the same way you do. And especially with cliched metaphor, there's a whole universe of possibilities of what that metaphor might mean when the person reading it is translating that metaphor into what you're saying. So just like passive language, passive voice, you start using metaphors, and my brain is, oh, the train is on the tracks. So I avoid like the plague. What's the plague? What is the plague in this scenario? Like, and what does it mean to avoid like the plague? The plague is I like a plague avoids something. I start dissecting it. And I am dissecting it and not reading all the things that are after because I'm stuck in your cliched metaphor. And I want to add a note of caution in my really good rules, really basic rules for good writing. I have a caution. I want you to be so mindful because some cliched metaphors are extremely offensive. And you don't know because you just have learned the metaphor and you don't think about it. But some of them are just offensive. And if you put that in a paper, I am going to be upset because I told you not to use a metaphor first. And second, because you weren't mindful about what words you're using and how they might affect the reader. Remember, you're talking about persuasive clarity. You want to upset your reader with a thoughtless cliche? That's how you want to go down? That's how you want to go down. No, that's not the hill you want to go down. Get rid of the metaphor and say what you're trying to say. Here's some that I've seen in student papers. Please, I'm again begging you, don't put these in your paper. Putting carts before proverbial horse. I mean, the whole proverbial there, every time I see it, I'm like, it's not just a bad metaphor, but you got to put proverbial in there just to make sure when you drive home, like this is a cliched metaphor. We don't do that. Tails wagging, dogs, I just and I don't like evening of various playing fields. Stop trying to even. I don't know what the playing field is. I don't know who the teams are. I don't know what you mean by even. It's just like it's hiding something. Having cake, eating it too. One of my students' favorites. They love to say this to me how much they love to have cake and eat it too. Do you even know what this metaphor means? It's like you have the cake, but you also eat the cake, but you still have the cake. What does this even mean? It doesn't make sense if you really think about it. So just say what you're trying to say. No having cakes, eating it too. I get upsetting apple carts. I get this all the time. People are always upsetting apple carts. I've never even seen an apple cart. I don't know what's so bad about upsetting it. Like what's bad? I don't know. Like what does it mean? I don't have any way to like bring this to my legal argument. And what's it doing? It's not a legal argument. It's a cliche. It's not persuasive to say that something is going to upset an apple cart if I don't know if it's bad. Maybe it's great. Maybe when you upset the apple carts, the pigs are happy because they get to eat them. Wasn't that like in Charlotte's Web? I think it was. Anyway, don't upset apple carts. Don't boil things down to, it's very common, and I know we all do this, boiling things down, I don't know, it just bothers me, it's like the kettle is boiling, the water is dropping down to nothing. Like, I don't know, why would you boil it down to, I'm guessing all of them, I'm just guessing all of them, and so I strike them all out. Just get rid of them, put them in somebody else's paper that appreciates metaphors, but just don't put them in mine. And just be mindful, just think about it, like, what are you trying to say? Maybe you could say it in a way that's more persuasive, and isn't that what you're trying to do? Please, no, that is what I will write on paper. Please, I'll say please approve. And then the second, third, and 20th time I'll say, no. No. I will say, okay, that brings me to this. This second question. Does not beg the question, and even if it does, don't write it in your paper. What is begging the question? Do you know? You probably know. Thesis? Thesis knows. What's begging the question? Who's got it? Who knows what begging the question is? Yeah?
When you assume a premise that's actually the bone of contention in the argument.
Great. There's so many big words in that sentence. I bet they were all right, but still don't use it. Don't tell me something begs the question. Don't. It almost never does. You're almost always wrong, and even when you're not wrong, you're pretentious. You want to be pretentious? You want me to be sitting there going, oh, it doesn't really? But the question, you don't want that, and I'm not alone. It almost certainly doesn't. No one likes it. And I think this is my last one for modes of expression. What can we learn from a rhetorical question? Just tell me. Just tell me. I mean, I am asking rhetorical questions. I will use this sometimes in my materials. I'll ask a rhetorical question, but when you ask a rhetorical question in the paper, usually it's because you are afraid to say the thing that the rhetorical question is asking about. Stop being so fearful. Say it. Hey, if I read your paper and disagree with you, that's beautiful. That's amazing when someone reads my paper and disagrees with it. I love when that happens. You can't be scared of that. So just say what you want to say and don't ask a rhetorical question. Just please. Okay, appearance. Okay, I just have this one. Just make it nice. Make it nice. Is it so hard to make it nice? Do you know how to use word styles to format your paragraphs in Word? Do you know how to do this, my students? Do you know how to use word styles? Does anyone know how to format their paper with styles in Word? Thanks to your video. You're winning. You're winning right now. You are winning. Yes, there's a video. I know it's stupidly long in this day of TikToks. It's 8 whole minutes, but I show you how to do it and why. Formatting and using the sidebar with the sections of your document is going to help you with the structure. And no more hand writing your table of contents, ... 5. Return, tab. Have you done this? Stop it. Don't do that anymore. Use word stuff. The technology has passed you by. It's been here. How old am I? 100 years. 100 years of being able to format your Word documents. Use it. It's so easy. It will make your life easier. Don't ... your way to a table of contents. Format your head. Use that to structure your arguments. Use it to, my sidebar is always open and it's open on your paper too, so I can see the structure of the argument while I read the argument. Learn how to do it, and you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble. You're going to make it nice. All right, I said I would give you 12 words to get out of professional writing right now, and here they come. Ready? I call this word litter. Very. It's very nice. It's very important. It's very good. It's very big. It's very is not a quantitative word. It means nothing. It means nothing. What's very? More than not? A lot more than not? Who knows? It's meaningless. Get very out of there. I just don't like it. It's word litter, and it's an extra word you could use for something else. Very, really, actually, surely, So, it's so good. It's so important, same as very, same as actually, same as really, clearly, quite. Pretty. If you use pretty, it better be to be describing your tax law professor. Pretty. Pretty. But it's not, your argument is not pretty good. If it's a pretty good argument, that sounds like it's not a very good argument. Yeah, I don't know, not really sure what you mean. In fact, ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble for this one. People love in fact. They want to say, some people say this, or X person says this. In fact, or actually, I don't want it. I might challenge you to write the counter without it. Challenge accepted? I hope so. I don't like it. Of course. Ooh, be careful with of course. Oh my goodness. Entire bodies of law have been destroyed by the of course. Entire articles that were well written have been decimated by the of course, which turned out to be, wrong. It's better just not to say it. Why don't you just don't say of course? Then what happens? Is your argument still persuasive? Maybe it's even more persuasive if you don't say of course. That said, ooh, I don't like that said either. There's this idea that said, like use it in conversation. The halls of McGill are full of students. That said, there's leftover coffee in the atrium. There is. That's a bad example. It's a little dark in the moot court. That said, Christians is keeping us awake, more or less. I mean, yes, in conversation, yes, but in writing, I just don't. It's sloppy to me. It's just word litter. It's very sloppy. It's not persuasive. I don't like it. That's all. And obviously, obviously, really, if it was so obvious, then why am I reading it? Wouldn't I already know? If it's obvious, this is the word obvious about me already knowing. Tell me. Obviously, not everybody loves Christians as much as she loves herself. It need to be said. Oh, I do need to say this for the little bit of laugh that I saw your face. That's all. That was it. That's why it was there. Just great. Thank you for the little smile. Affirmation. I did need it and I got it. So beautiful. So obviously, to me, signals something that either you're not sure is obvious, or is in fact obvious, and you shouldn't be wasting your word count telling me about it. Did you want to fight with me about any of those? You can fight with me in a minute. Here's the single best piece of advice I'm going to give you. You probably can guess it. It was in the video, so you've probably already seen it. So you already know what best piece of advice is. But can you guess? Do you know? If you really want to be good at like playing the trombone, what should you do? Put it away and store it and put a ribbon on it and like never touch it. Is that what you should do? No. What should you do? Practice. Just write one. You already wrote today. Every time you write, I want you to think, did I say really, pretty, very, so, clearly, obviously, of course, did I say those things? Could I have not? This has been academic writing. Your friendly tax